Welcome to the Victorious Living Podcast. You're about to hear real stories of real people who have discovered the real hope of Jesus Christ. I'm Christy Overton Johnson, the founder and publisher of Victorious Living magazine. Since 2011, I've had the privilege of sharing the most amazing life stories. I never cease to be amazed at the life-transforming power of Jesus Christ. Today in our podcast, you're going to go deeper into these amazing God stories and hear from those who have overcome incredible odds and discover how they found a life of freedom. You can discover it too. I trust that you'll enjoy today's conversation between our host and our special guest. Thank you for listening, and be sure to share the hope you hear and the mission of Victorious Living.
I am Randy Claypoole with Victorious Living Ministries. I have the honor and privilege to have Omar and Ann. Say your last name for me so that I make sure that we're saying it correctly.
It's a Calvillo. In Spanish, Calvillo, but my teachers used to say Calvillo, but really it's a Calvillo.
See, that's why it was better, because you have the proper accent. I was sharing with you earlier, just when we were talking a little bit before the podcast, I used to work for NASCAR. I was in the auto racing industry for about 26 years. I was doing a radio broadcast one time. I don't know if you've ever heard of Richard Petty.
Yes.
But he, being South from North Carolina, he had that accent. So I got him to do a commercial for me, and he pronounced my name Randy Claypoole. He really, really had that, So Claypools say it Claypoole, but I kind of say Claypoole now. But so that's why I felt it was better. So help me say that.
Calvillo.
Calvillo.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go. Yeah,
Did I do it?
Twist on it like that.
So the L's are kind of silent then.
Yeah, so the double L makes like a yo sound. Yo.
Yo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That really is awesome. So you each have an article in the magazine, and coming out here in January 2026. And not to put a date on this, of course, but it's kind of cool that both of you are in there. And the founder of the ministry, I asked her, I said, Christy, these two, they have a chemistry with each other, and it would be so cool to be able to interview them together and just be able to watch how you interact. And I just feel like, somebody being alone in prison and watching this might find some encouragement in that. So both of you, you live up north, as we might say, because I'm down south. I used to live in the Chicago area.
Okay.
Yeah.
By where?
Well, Northwest Indiana. I did some Bible training out there at a college, and was there. And I'm originally from Pennsylvania, but I got to tell you, the Windy City weather is like way different. We had hills or small mountains to kind of protect us a little bit, but Chicago is certainly an interesting place. When I was in college, I did some Bible, we'd go out like with bus ministry, Bible club ministry. So I was out and around the streets, and I got to experience a little bit of that life as a teenager. And I heard about gangs, but I personally never really experienced it. What is that like to grow up in that environment when it's all around you?
Yeah, as like for me, growing up, it was like in the community I grew up. It's Pilsen, so it's like the lower west side of Chicago. Back then, it was getting predominantly more Hispanic, Mexican. So basically, you go outside, and that's all that I would see. The good thing for me, where I lived in my house, it was all family. I had my family in the first floor, family on the second, family in the basement. So there was family all around me. But at the same time, they would tell us not to go too far or to stay away from this corner or this area. So yeah, especially Pilsen, back in the 80s, 90s, and even to the 2000s, it was really bad. I would say it was gang infested. Every couple of blocks, maybe 3-4 blocks that you went, there was like a different gang. So it was pretty rough.
What was it like for you, Ann? Because you were living somewhere else and then moved there.
Yeah. So actually, we lived in Pilsen. My dad took us out of Pilsen when I was just a kid. I was maybe 3 or 4 years old. But yeah, we lived originally in Pilsen. Then he moved us out a little further south. And so the neighborhoods changed. He moved us to what you would consider a more safer neighborhood. And I didn't get exposed again to the gangs till I would say my teenage years in high school. And again, what I was looking for was family, friends, fun. And so that's how I got reacquainted with the gangs. I moved back to the neighborhood when my dad lost the house. So him and my mom separated, and a few years later, we couldn't pay the mortgage anymore.
Mm.
And so then we moved back to the neighborhood because it was affordable. And basically, I was working, I was taking care of my mom, and I was a single mom. And so that just seemed to be the place to be. And that's where I eventually met Omar.
So I got to ask you, Omar, and then you can kind of help me get it out of Ann because you're not supposed to ask a woman how old she is. So, what age brackets were you in back in the day?
When we met, I had just turned no, yeah, I was 21 years old, and I was about to turn 22 years old. Yeah, so
And
21 years
she's
old.
she's much younger, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, definitely. I mean, you could call it robbing the cradle. You could say.
I like you, Randy.
Oh, that's good. I was just trying to set that up right. Let's I just obviously many that are watching this will have read the articles. So I don't necessarily want to go back and just talk about that, but I pulled a few things out. So you both of you were in and around the gangs. It was considered pretty normal, I guess, then, because it was a neighborhood thing, right? You're just surrounded by it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you had to go looking for it. It was there and available. And you made the comment that you were looking for fun. So what about the gangs at your age at that time made it look fun?
So that sense of family, that sense of belonging, I think coming from a broken home, I needed that. I needed to feel accepted. I needed to feel like I fit in. And really, the thing with the gangs is it was like in that neighborhood, it was unavoidable,
Mhm.
so it was unavoidable. And so you had to decide like who you were down for. Okay, what gang you were going to be down for. And really, I myself was not in the gang, but I was surrounded by them. And, I felt like for me, they were safe. It's crazy to say, but
Mm.
they felt safe. This dysfunction felt safe to me because that's what I knew. And it felt fun because, we would do things together. You can be hanging out around with maybe 5 or 6 people just on the porch, talking, drinking, doing whatever. And that was fun. That was fun.
So similar for you, Omar, then?
As far as like how I got into the gangs, like
How she described it. I mean, is that similar or do you have a little different perspective or
a perspective of the gang, I would say no. Yeah, I mean, like like growing up, I would always admire the gang members. I would dress like them even when I was younger, and I wanted. It was almost like they were the role models, like in the hood. And it's funny because I was talking to somebody that was on the podcast, and we were talking about when somebody like we never see nobody in the neighborhood wearing a suit and tie, and we were joking around that the only time you see people wearing suits when you knew they had court. And that's like the joke. The only time you see somebody with
Yeah.
a suit on is they're going to court.
Mm.
But yeah, I would say like growing up, what drove me like into the gangs. I don't know. We'll probably get into a little bit later. Was what happened to my cousin when he passed away. That really is what brought my younger brother and myself and some other cousins to join the gang.
So that's Gil, right? And
Yes.
prior to that happening, you talk about, I mean, because both of you sort of, you know, I guess really your upbringings were a little different, or your family environment was different, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you Omar talk about how you had family all around, and things weren't so good at home as you were growing up.
Yeah. For me, there were good moments, but I would say it was dysfunctional.
Hmm.
You know, I did feel loved by my parents. I had a reverence of them. You know, I was taught that to respect and reverence your parents. But I think what I seen was a lot of fighting. In my home, I saw a lot of fighting. I was scared. I was scared as a little kid. Being around
Hmm.
the fighting, the hitting. There's just, it was tough. And I think as a child, um, it became normal to me as I got older. Like, okay, this is just normal. A lot of people would say, looking outside in, they would say this is such a quiet, good family. Um, and I have to say, my dad, when he was involved, he was truly involved, but he worked 4 to 5 jobs, so he was hardly
Wow.
home. And then my mom, she was present, but she wasn't available. And that's because she was going through her own things with my dad.
Hmm.
And so there was a lot of domestic, just a lot of domestic issues there. And I would say, I do recall some good memories when my dad would take us out vacationing, when we'd go to church every now and then on Sundays. But it's amazing how we remember the bad more than the good, and
Hmm.
I feel like the bad impacted me so much as a little girl. I was, just affected by the trauma, and by the abuse that I seen and that I experienced. So I think for me growing up, it was just a hard time, and it built a lot of insecurities in me as a young woman, as a little girl. And I did feel though that, again, I did feel loved. I just felt that I didn't feel safe in my own home.
Hmm. That's a
Um,
shame.
yeah.
But Omar, things were pretty good, if I understood correctly, until some financial pressures came along. Now I'm talking about your upbringing.
Oh no, I wouldn't say financially. Like in my home, I would say it was drinking.
Okay.
Like growing up in like in a Mexican culture, like basically in my family, like if you wanted to be the man, it was like who could hold down their liquor,
Hmm.
who was the last man on the table, who could
Right.
basically, and we would have family gatherings, and that's what they would talk about.
Hmm.
Uncle so and so, he's the one that can hang. So in my house, there was a little bit, a lot of drinking,
Hmm.
some the domestic violence. One thing I could, what I can share about my father, he was hardworking, taught me and my older brothers a hard work, which I believe I still carry to this day. So I can't say it was all bad, but it wasn't there. I guess the bad that I did see like affected me, and I didn't really know back then when I was like a young kid. But as I got older, teenager, into my 20s, I carry some things into like my relationships.
Were you in a relationship, a significant relationship prior to Anne?
I wouldn't say significant. I would say back when I was like maybe 16, 17, before I got incarcerated, I had a girlfriend. But back then, like, you go through things. And so basically, to put it plainly, like I was hurt in that relationship, which led me to get a tattoo on my back that says trust no B. I don't want to say that word, but that became my mentality.
I
You
can
know,
kind of
yeah,
imagine.
yeah. So basically, that after that, I'm like, man, I'm never gonna give my heart to a woman. You know what I'm saying? Not that easily. I'm gonna think twice before I say that a certain girl is my girlfriend or my woman, however you want to call it. So I would say that relationship, it was like teenage puppy love. Back then you think it's love, and you grow up and you realize, maybe it was just an infatuation.
Yeah. Has Ann done anything with that tattoo over the years to change it?
I don't like that tattoo.
I figured you'd
But
be
you
back
know,
there with
Eh,
permanent markers or something.
yeah.
Can I tell you a funny story about that
Please
tattoo?
do. Please do.
So back then I was a teenager, and we're getting drunk, we're getting high. So my buddy was doing tattoos, right? So we're at my cousin's house, and I told him, man, the tattoo I want. So for some reason, he wanted me laid down on the couch so he could do it, but he had to start backwards. So instead of starting with the truss and going all the way down, he had to start the other way.
Oh,
So by the time he finished, basically it looked like frost, Frost, instead of trust. My family would make fun of me, So it didn't turn out too good.
I wanted to ask you because you used Omar a term, but both of you can comment on it as you feel free. Um, Coping mechanisms, because that's psychologically, I think of that too, because that's always a question I like to ask. I think if I understood it correct, it's like you had coping mechanisms, but they no longer worked. So how did that transition? Because we all need coping mechanisms. So how did the ones you were doing not work change to the ones you have now?
Mm. I would say that I think in the way I shared like the coping man
Mechanism,
mechanisms.
yeah.
Yeah, it was basically I realized it when I got incarcerated. I don't know if you want me to go to that part of the story, but
Sure, yeah.
that's where I
Yeah.
realized it. So what I realized is that the way I would do it is to daydream in a sense.
Okay.
So I shared the story where I would be like on the bench. I would have my radio like on the yard, and I'll be listening to music, and I will imagine myself somewhere else. And also, when I was in East Moline, a correctional center, they had a auto shop where they would teach you mechanic work, how to work on cars. So basically, I was telling my wife I would go down there to class, but I would just sit in the car and daydream that I was cruising, that I was with my friends, that I was, back in the neighborhood. So the way I would cope is to escape the reality of where I was at. So physically, I was there, behind bars, but mentally, I was somewhere else, and that was my way. That I guess I used that to deal with the reality. Like I didn't want to accept the reality that I was behind bars. I didn't want to accept the reality that I miss my loved ones, that I miss my family members. So that I would just escape in that way, if that makes sense.
Would you in any way, shape, or form, I don't know, would you recommend that? I mean, if you give advice now, so what would you advise an incarcerated person, man or woman, to do for a coping mechanism? Would you suggest that they have moments where they see themselves someplace else?
To be honest, I wouldn't in that sense.
Okay.
Now, obviously, now that I'm a believer, I would tell them to draw close to Christ, because that's basically a lie. Like the way I look at it, that
Mm.
the way I was coping is just I was lying to myself, and escaping that reality. So maybe it could help them, I guess, in a sense while they're in there, to escape uh, uh, the reality. But I would basically tell them to draw close to God, because there's something that I have now that I never had before, and that's a peace inside my soul, a peace inside my mind. I have God's light that expelled the darkness that I had before. So maybe I guess in a sense anything to help them. Maybe not get depressed, not to get sad. Maybe one thing I learned in there is basically how to harden myself, and maybe that's one way that I hardened myself so that I wouldn't feel by escaping. But I believe that made my heart grow cold. But I believe a lot of people feel that they need to do that in order to survive behind bars. But honestly, I would tell them to draw close to God, and Jesus Christ could give them a peace that surpasses all understanding.
And can I add to
I
what Omar was
I was
sharing?
I was what see this is why I wanted you guys together, because you're sitting there going, and I'm like
Yeah.
I was getting ready to say, Ann, talk, go for it.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add, so when I met Omar, he was just recently released, right? You were, I think, on house arrest
No, I wasn't.
or
Basically paroled out.
paroled.
Yeah.
Okay. When I met him, I was a recipient of that calloused heart. He, you know, it was funny because we're in the street. He's like, "Hey, girl, can I holler at you?" And I was like, okay, like, I was like, okay, I guess, And we just started talking. But one of the things that I was drawn to by Omar, he was very charming, made me laugh. But the more I got to know him, we were friends before anything. The more I got to know him, I got to experience that coldness. And I don't know, for me, I was like, this guy's pretty cold, he's not very affectionate, like, someone who's trying to woo a girl. He was just really cold, and I was attracted to that. It's
Hmm.
again this crazy dysfunction. I was attracted to that. But there came a time, once I said, let's just put it this way, once Jesus became my first love, I began to see like this is cold. This is not how women should be treated, and I started to see like there's something off here because I was used to being treated like that way by men. And so when Omar and I started dating, he was very very cold. He was just kind of like, I don't want to say cold in a disrespectful way, but it was hard for him to connect. It was hard for us to connect beyond friends on an intimate level. And I could see what prison had done to him. It definitely hardened him. And that was his way of surviving, right? That was his way of surviving in there and even coming out because he didn't know me, he didn't trust me. So like his tattoo said, right? So he didn't trust me, he didn't know me, and we were just getting to know each other. And one time I asked him like, "Why are you so cold?" And he was like, "Cause I don't know you like that." He's like, "I don't." He's like, one thing that he said to me, he's like, "I don't see myself marrying a woman with a
Hmm.
child."
Hmm.
And he was just very straightforward with me. And I was like, inside, on the outside, on the exterior, I was like, okay, that's fine. But on the inside, I was like, that hurt. That hurt.
Because she had when I met her, she had a 1 year old son,
Yeah,
Angel.
I was just going to ask how old he
Yeah,
was. So,
yeah,
Yeah.
1 year old, yes.
I mean, so
A- And yeah,
yeah,
I
that's
just want to like confirm what she said. That was my mentality. Like I told her like straight out, I'm not gonna marry a woman or be long term with a woman that has a kid. And I think it all goes back. If I could share this, like back then, I was suicidal without being suicidal, and I say that in the sense where I would put myself in danger, almost like for somebody else to take me out, because I didn't have a sense of purpose, a sense of living.
so,
Uh,
I guess you would call that like a death wish.
Hmm.
yes, to put it simply,
You
yes,
know,
yes,
interesting. So you guys had an attraction to each other. You expressed that in your articles, and then things start getting a little. You're together, obviously, to a point where you're thinking this is turning a little bit serious. Omar, you're pulling back a little bit. Ann wants a little more commitment. Am I kind of got that right? So, who
yeah.
taught? So, Ann, you brought that up to him. You communicated with him how you were feeling.
Yeah. So I kind of had this mindset. I was in a very abusive relationship before Omar,
Yeah.
and that's, where I had my son. And so my son's father was very abusive. It was a very domestic violent
Mm.
situation. Um, and so I just, from my dad leaving at the age of between 11 and 12, and, just seeing my hero walk out the door, just seeing the only man that, I felt loved from leave our family. I felt defective. I felt like, what's wrong with me? As a little kid, you're not thinking, oh, they had marriage problems. It was like, Dad, why are you leaving me? Um, and when I got into this relationship with my son's father, abuse was normal. His anger, his rage, that was normal for me. The beatings, And it got to the point I was so full of shame, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my mom, I didn't tell my sisters, and of course I didn't tell my dad. So now, getting connected with Omar, I was, what I was experiencing, his coldness was pretty normal. It was pretty normal to me. And I'm sorry, what was the question?
Oh, I don't know. You were doing you
Yeah,
were
okay.
doing good there. It's
So
I think
yeah,
about it. It was
I,
about the relationship.
yeah. Did you?
yes.
Yeah, I remember
Uh-huh.
what it was. I was just kidding. But it's like, did you communicate there or try to communicate how you were feeling to Omar about his coldness?
Yeah, so that was normal. So I can go back and reflect on our relationship, but in that time, my mindset, it was like that was normal. That was normal for me.
Gotcha.
And so when one day I was drunk. We were in a car somewhere, and and I was like, I hate you so much. And he looks at me. I was like, I hate you. And I said, because I love you. Yeah, yeah, it was pretty nuts. And he says to me, he says, okay. And that was that. He didn't, there was no I love you back. There was none of that. And I felt like I'm okay with that. I just needed to let him know. And I was drunk, and so it was fine with me. Um, so yeah, that's how I shared with him that I did love him.
You know,
How how'd you feel about that, Omar?
you know what? I would say back then, like I mentioned, I was hurt in my previous relationship, but as a
Yeah.
teenager, and I had the mentality where I'm not gonna give my heart that easily to a woman. So I was guarded, I was cold, but at the same time, that was a front, because in the inside, I had feelings towards her. I loved her, but I wasn't gonna say it. It was almost like that. That was another way of coping to guard myself. I was gonna be guarded. I wasn't gonna go say, "Oh, that I love her." I wasn't gonna tell my friends, "Oh, that's my girlfriend." Well, what if it turns out that she's not? Or in a sense. So yeah, I would say back then, if I'm being honest, it was just an act. It was a front. It was just a way of protecting like myself, or protecting my name, of not being taken advantage of, or like just pride, I would say.
From what I hear, it's a big deal to get a man to open up like that, right? Right,
Yeah,
Ann? I mean, so that's
yeah,
good.
absolutely.
Okay. So, um, the reason I kind of want to really touch on this, more so than just the articles, is to see you as a couple.
Yeah.
So, how many years are we talking from then till now?
It's been 26.
Oh,
So
okay.
I met her
Yeah.
June 1st of 2000. So yeah, 25. I think it's gonna be 26. Yeah, this
Wow.
this June will be 26 years. So we
Wow.
were
That's awesome.
together 4.5 years before we had the transformation, before God came into the picture.
Yeah.
See, I that's incredible. I didn't know she was in that age range. So,
Yeah,
remember
Big
we're
fan.
not going there.
yeah, we're
But
not, we're not. Yeah,
no, that's really awesome. I mean, I honestly, when I asked that question, I didn't really do the math. I didn't know if you were going to say 10 years, 15, but 26 years.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's got to be an encouragement to someone out there that's going to
Yeah.
listen to this. So, gosh, I need to ask you, let me look at my list over here. Um, one of my words that I like a lot that you guys brought out was the word patterns, because you can know a lot about things, life, situations, people by patterns. So you had to change. You noticed there were bad patterns, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
And so that was a big step if you can truly identify those patterns, and so then you make better patterns, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's yeah, that's good. Okay. Let me look at my list again over here. Oh,
Yeah,
I know
I
what I
can
wanted. Go ahead,
Can I
please.
share something on the patterns?
Yeah.
So going back to that, I just want to share something, Randy, and I think it's
Okay.
important. I know that there's going to be people who have come from dysfunctional homes, who, like myself, have thought to themselves, you know what, I'm never going to do the whole marriage thing. I'm never going to commit. It's too scary. It's too risky.
Mm.
And there's no one out there for me that I'm going to feel safe enough with because of my past trauma, because of my current trauma, because of what I've been through in my life. And nobody gets it. Nobody understands. I just want to say to that person that, that was my mindset. I thought I'm not lovable. That was a lie I believed my whole life. Like, I'm not lovable. Dad left. I'm not lovable. Mom's not nurturing. She's not a nurturing mom. I'm not lovable. My son's dad, I'm not lovable. He beats me. And then Omar was kind of colding towards me, and I'm not lovable. And that was just a lie. And so I convinced myself, you know what? I'm fine. If I never find someone that will be my soulmate, I'm fine. And this was again before Christ. That was my mindset. And I thought, it's better to be alone than to be with
Mm.
people who are going to mistreat you and not know how to love you. And so I was okay with just settling for scraps of love wherever I could get it,
Mm.
and that was the mindset that I had until Christ, again, Christ became my first love. And that's when my life began to change, the transformation, the way I saw Omar. There was a realignment, that breaking of the old man, the old patterns, right? The dying to myself, and now saying, God, I want what you have for me. I ditched that lie that I'm not lovable because you love me, and Jesus proves it. Jesus proves that he loves me. And so my heart and my mindset began to change. And it wasn't like I was going to classes or, people would say, oh, you've changed. Yeah, that's God. That's Jesus. That's the Holy Spirit at work in a sinner, a
Mm.
broken, lost woman like me. And so he began to change me. It wasn't like a self-help. It's none of that. I mean, we can read good books and get good stuff from them, but really it's Christ and the work of the Holy Spirit inside of me that really began to change my heart and my mind and the way I saw marriage and the way, I saw family. He totally began to renew my mind in that area.
Mm. If we could encapsulate, and I want both of you to comment on this, even though I believe it was something that Anne had said in her article, but you talk about scars, okay? I think you've touched on some of those things that we can kind of say, okay, these were scars, but how is it that God is able, because you're giving him credit, to use those scars to help other people? Can both of you comment on that?
You wanna?
Yeah, I guess so. The way first I want to share the way that came up of the scars. That was the name of her podcast. Her
Okay.
scars tell the story. So that's where that came from. But scars, I would say, for instance, like being incarcerated. Like nobody wants to be incarcerated. Incarcerated is a bad thing, right? But for me, like that's a scar. I spent 3 years behind bars. I turned 19, 20, and 21 in there,
Mm.
and obviously that's something that
Wow.
scarred me. But at the same time, prison is something that protected me. It kept me out of trouble. Before I went in there, I was really bad. Not just on alcohol, I was on all type of drugs. I was doing weed. I was smoking weed. I was snorting cocaine. I was smoking PCP, which is over here in Chicago they call it wiki water. And we were doing all type of acid. I was out there really bad. So when I went into prison, basically that cleaned me up because I think in there I only maybe smoked weed a couple times, but obviously I got clean, and that in a sense saved me because during those years that I was in there, there was a lot of death that was happening, like it's particularly like around my area. Like I was in there, and one weekend they say, "Man, this guy died, that guy died, this guy died," and I'm like, now I look back. Obviously, at the moment I didn't, but God could use the bad for our good. So don't look at your scars, those painful moments. Maybe there's a purpose for that pain that God could use.
And for me, Randy, I think, her scars tell a story. There's a story behind every scar, right? And a lot of times, we tend to focus on, what the wound that, now a scar. And when I thought about that, I thought about how our scars we keep our scars to show others this is how God can redeem. This is how God can redeem our lives, by beginning to heal us from the inside. There were a lot of wounds that I had, and it still have, Randy, still to this day, 20 something years later, since I met Omar, but almost, without saying my age, but 40 years of scars, and still dealing with some of those wounds, that will resurface, you know because of family, because you spend a lifetime with family, and so sometimes they can resurface, but in that I have Christ. I don't look at my scars the way I used to look at them, before I felt ashamed of them. And now it's like, no, these scars are a reminder that Jesus heals and Jesus saves and Jesus can turn my life around, and I can share that hope in him with others. I don't have to be ashamed. The Bible talks about that he took on our shame, and I truly believe that. I truly believe that he did. And so now, as we're renewing our minds, as we go to his word and as we read his truth, we're replacing those lies that we've believed, right? Those fixed beliefs, those lies that we've believed, with the truth that I am loved, that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, that I've been bought at a price, that I've been adopted into his family, that I've been chosen, and that I'm accepted, And so I now replace those lies with the truth of who God says that I am.
That's just really awesome. So, all right. How many years? 26?
Yeah.
All right. Just kind of describe in a few words. What do you feel about each other right now, today? Where have you come to from everything you've been through?
Well, one thing, yeah.
She said,
I'll
go
let
ahead,
you go.
Arbor. You go first.
Oh
I
man,
want to
no,
hear what you got to say
I know I gotta
first.
say really good stuff,
Exactly. You better make
Uh,
it good. Go, man.
But to anybody who's watching this, just if you listen to her, just the godly wisdom, the sweetness, the tenderness that she has is it's beautiful. I believe the reason I've made it so far, the reason that I am the man that I am, first and foremost, of course, is God the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit. Second is my wife. She's truly been a blessing. I honestly, I believe God speaks to me through her. And I could be hard headed at times. Like I tell people, like when she tells me something, usually the first day I don't want to hear it, but a day or two later, like you know what, she was right. I gotta listen to her. So husbands, love your wives, care for them, and I believe they complete us. And the Bible says that a man should leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So honestly, what do I feel about my wife? She completes me. I don't see myself being the man that I am without this woman by my side.
And I think he gets a pretty high score for that. What do you
I
think?
told you he was charming. I told you.
That was pretty amazing right there now. So, okay, your
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah. So yeah, I was just getting teary eyed right now because God God there's a scripture that says we love because he loved us first. And that hardened heart that Omar once had, the love of God softened his heart. And since, you know, we've been married, he has showed me what it is to be loved. You know, that sense of that always questioning, am I lovable? Omar has showed me the love of God. He has showed me faithfulness. He has showed me, you know, being honest. No, we're not a perfect marriage. We have our issues, but we come together. We bring it out on the table. We talk about it. And that's how we allow God in that. You know, a lot of people see us and, oh, you know, they may perceive, or they may say, you know, oh, that's such a good, happy couple. But we go through some things. We've weathered some storms together, you know, and so it's not like it's been smooth sailing. Absolutely not. But I believe it's those storms that have forged our marriage, you know, on the foundation of faith. It's like, you know what, no matter what we go through, God is our foundation. And we're going to continue to grow and continue to fall in love with one another. I would say even practical things like date nights, putting things out on the calendar where we make time for each other, because life gets busy. We have children, we have jobs, there's ministry work. It gets really busy, Randy, you know, but we have to be intentional. And there's that word intentional. On making sure that we're pouring into one another, loving one another, caring for one another, respecting one another. And that takes work. That's commitment. That's saying yes, even when you're tired. That's saying it's sacrificial love, you know? And so, yeah, it gets hard. It gets hard. It's not, marriage is a work. Marriage is a choice every day to say yes to God and yes to my spouse.
That's beautiful. Gosh, I've really enjoyed talking to you guys, and I'm glad you came together. And Omar, you did good, because I don't see any like notes, you know, like I had to have some notes on the side just to kind of think of some good questions to ask, but I didn't see like where she was telling you, say this, say that. That was
You didn't see when she was pinching me under the table over here. You know?
Hey, listen, you guys, it's just wonderful to spend this time with you. And I know there's a lot of lonely people you've experienced, and they're out there and they're not with their husband or wife. They want to be, but they're in there. And I think that you've given them some food for thought today, some steps they can take while they're on the inside to try to make a difference in their marriage. And so I wish you all the best in your ministry. Thank you for serving the Lord. Thank you for spending this time with me. And just, you know, hey, God bless you in all things. I appreciate all of that.
Thank you, Randy. We appreciate this time with you.
Too.
Hey, it's been great.
Thank you for watching our broadcast. Are you an incarcerated brother or sister who needs encouragement? Write to us at Victorious Living Correspondence, P.O. Box 2751, Greenville, North Carolina, 27836. Or email us at hope@vlmag.org. To view Victorious Living magazine in its entirety, please have your chaplain contact us at 352-478-2098 or email us through our website at vlmag.org. We are happy to provide our Victorious Living magazine free of charge in bulk, with or without staples.